Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I'm going to show you one of my favorite things to do is layer a lot of different pattern papers together. For this particular card, I've actually pulled out 4 different 6x6 reverse confetti paper pads. There's some really great patterns, and I pulled just a color out of several different ones. I used Pattern Play, Free Spirit, Under the Umbrella, and Every Little Bit. So first thing I like to do is kind of arrange the papers in a pleasing order. I decided to use the blue for my card base, and then I've pulled a few different reverse confetti cuts out. I'm going to use the large scallop from Circles and Scallops, and the circle band confetti cuts. And once I die cut those out, you'll see that that scallop actually fits just perfect behind the circle band to add kind of a pretty scallop edge. So as I put my die cuts on my pattern paper, I like to use a tiny piece of just easily removable tape. My favorite is Post-it tape. It peels off easily and doesn't leave any residue, just to hold my dies in place so I can get them where I want them on there. Partly because I like to have them lined up in a certain place, and also I can have my patterns going the direction I want, and also so I don't waste any extra pattern paper by the die sliding and getting further in. That way I can still save all my scraps to use more things. So I'm going to paper piece. The stamps that I'm using for this is Coffee and You, and I'm going to do that cute elephant with the little coffee cup, and I've decided to throw a little more pattern paper onto my card by paper piecing this image. And I'm going to use my green to cut out the little coffee cup, and I like to just use some simple fine detail scissors to cut these out. And you may have noticed when I stamped on that green, instead of stamping the whole image, I just kind of stamped the corner with the part of the image I was going to die cut. Again, just kind of helps me save wasting more of my pattern paper than I have to, and then I have just exactly what I need. This image is great because it doesn't have too many fine little details to cut around. I like paper piecing with fairly simple basic images. You can definitely do a lot more complicated ones, but it starts to be a lot of work to cut into too many little tiny detail places. So this one was perfect. And then also, once I've got it die cut, I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the image with a Copic marker. That'll help add some depth without having to paper piece several different parts of the image. So I'm using a glue pen to glue these 2 pieces in on my stamped image. I'm paper piecing it on white cardstock before I die cut it with the coordinating dies, just because it provides a little more stability. In all reality, I could probably even have just stamped and die cut from the pattern paper, but this will leave the white edge around by die cutting, and it also makes the image a little more sturdy when I mount it with my foam adhesive. So I paper pieced those pieces in, and I'm going to grab a white gel pen and color in the little star, color in some spots on the feet, and also I decided to color in the top of that coffee cup to make it look a little more realistic. And then here's where I'm going to grab just a soft pink Copic marker. I believe this is R20, which is blush, and I'm adding a little to the cheeks, a little bit to the ears, and then I'll come back in again with my white gel pen and just add some little freckles, some little lines, and a little more white detail with that. So you can see I'm building up my image, adding all my pattern paper. I've chosen my sentiment, and I like to keep, when I have scraps of white cardstock just from trimming down card front panels or anything else, I save the strips. They work great for doing things like this, and then I'm not wasting my scraps and I can still put them to good use. So you notice I used the whole strip and I stamped it and kind of planned where I wanted it. I used my scissors to trim it so that it was a little wider than my card base. That way I can trim it down just perfect here in a few minutes, but it kind of got it to where I knew I wanted it. And I'm going to start adhering my pieces all together and onto my card base. And once I decide again where I want that sentiment strip, I'm going to hold it in place with a little tiny bit of Post-it tape. And at this point you can use scissors, or I'm just using my paper trimmer to trim off the little tiny bit there so I have a perfectly lined up edge. And then the reason I did that first with my Post-it tape is I wanted to mount it with foam adhesive, and it was a lot easier to trim when it was flush on my card front there. So I'm going to arrange that where I want it and adhere it over there, and then I'm also going to add my elephant with foam adhesive. I kind of planned it so that the feet kind of tucked around the sentiment a little, in case you were wondering why I played with my arrangement a little bit there. Plenty of foam adhesive again, just to keep it nice and stable and sturdy. That way it'll go through the mail or hold up to transportation until you get it to where you want it. And then final finishing touch, just to help some of the white elements pop a little, decided to add a few Tonic Nouveau drops. I like to use a little scrap of paper to make sure I have it flowing and I don't get a bubble or a little explosion that's going to pop it out somewhere that I don't want it. I never quite know when to quit on these. Sometimes I think I put too many, but they're so cute it's kind of hard to go wrong. So, all right, and there you have the finished card. Great way to use up all those pattern papers and stop hoarding them and put them to good use. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Hope you have a great day.